The Homeward Way. Now, truly, it did seem very light, after the horrid and lonesome gloom that did lie always in the bottom of the olden sea, and I saw that I was come out upon a part of the land that did be surely to the right of that place where I made entry into the seabed, on mine outward going. And there did be a great plenty of fire holes, so that mine heart was warm to see them, yet did I mind to be wary in coming unto them, for, as you do know, there did so oft be life of this kind and that about these fires. And I looked now down to the maid, and she upward to me, and did come more anigh to me, and truly she did be most wondrous pretty and sweet, yet did seem very awearied and pale in the face, so that I made blame upon myself that I had overwalked her, for, in verity, I do think that I was so strong and hard as that I had been made from iron, and she but a dear and tender maid. Yet did she refuse that I should so reproach myself, and did but stand anigh to me and look at me with eyes that were very beautiful. And so I put mine arms about her, and kissed her, and afterward looked again over the land, that I should shape out our further journeying. And from that place where I did stand, there spread out all before me the blue shining that I had seen from the mouth part of the upward gorge, yet did it be a great way off. And, indeed, I should tell you in this place, that it was by the glimmering of this shine within the sky of the night that I had steered, as we did come across the olden seabed. And, truly, it was but a broad thing to go toward, but yet did serve me, in that it told me that I went toward the far side of the seabed, and made not to go all about in blind circles in the night. And after that I had considered a while, I did know somewhat where the gorge should be, and perceived that I should go unto my left, but not overmuch, for indeed I saw the red shining of the giant's hole that lay at a great space that way, and surely I must go so that I missed the place of the giants so much as I might, and in the same going, come not over near unto the blue shining that lay before me, across all the far part of that country, for, in verity, I mistrusted the place where that shining did be. Now when I had gained somewhat of knowledge where should be found the mouth of the upward gorge, I put mine arm about the maid, where she did stand so nigh to me, and very hushed, the while that I had looked about. And I pointed outward over the dark land unto my left, and told her that the gorge did be somewhere that way, a great distance off, yet utter out of my sight, and only to be known that it did be somewise there by the things that I did mind of, concerning my way after I came into the land. Now the maid, having stood very quiet, had looked all that time about her, and so had come to some knowing of the place where she did be in the land, for she did know the land someways, as you shall think. And she asked me how I did mind to go, and truly I said, so straight as we might, but yet so that we come neither too nigh to the shining nor to the great red fire pit of the giants. And the maid bade me to look in the way that I did mind to go, and I looked, but yet there was nothing save, as they did seem, certain fire holes that had a green shining about them. And she set out unto me then, how that there did go a tract of bad gas in that part of the land, that should be utter poisonous unto any, and this had been well known in the lesser redoubt, by the reading of their instruments. And where the gas did go, there was there a green shining about the fire holes. And she showed me how that the place of the gas went a great way into the northwest, so that I learned now somewhat how the land did lie, as we do say in these days. And it was in all the northwest that the great blue shining did burn. And I asked Nani how they named this, and she told me by no name, save but the shine. And mine own made very earnest to warn me, regarding the shine, and urged that we go no more that wards than should be needful to our lives, the which, indeed, was no wish of mine. And her reason to be that the fixed giants did be within the borders of the shine, and all hid in the light thereof, save when the burning mist did roll this way or that. And I took a great heed of this thing, and did guess that these fixed giants were somewhat even as the great watchers that were about the mighty pyramid, as you do know. And immediately I minded me of that utter monstrous face that I did see amid the bright smoke of the shine, when that I came first into the land, and surely this had been one of the fixed giants, that Nani told me were forces of great and very horrid evil. And I asked mine own how far the place of the gas went across the land, and she pointed and made further explaining. And, in verity, in the end, I saw not how I should come that way to the mouth of the gorge, if that I would keep offwards from the shine. Yet, in a moment, Nani asked me how I did come across the land, when that I searched for her. And, truly, as I showed her, I had walked then by a sweet chance, or guiding, alway upon the far side of the place of the gas, and so unto the olden sea bed, and was in this way come free of the gas, and all unknowing of it. And at this telling, the maid said that we go downward again into the bed of the olden sea, and walk some great hours below the shore, but in the way that should take us unto the southwest, and so until we were come beyond the place of the gas. And afterward up again into the land, and then to have an utter caution that we escape the watching of the giants who did be ever about the great red fire hole. And by this plan very speedy to the entering part of the upward gorge. And, truly, this did be very good and sound, and such as I should have planned in a moment, for, indeed, I am not over slow in such matters, only the maid did be very eager and quick, and it was very sweet to me that she should thus plan, for, in verity, I loved alway the sounding of her voice, and to hear her have speech and to plan and think, and so to show me the workings of her inward self and her dear qualities in human niceness. And to have part and lot alway with me in all things and thinkings. And, we shaped to this plan that Nani made, but at that time, as you do mind, it was somewhat of 17 hours since last we had slumber, and the maid was sore wearied, as I did see. And I showed to her how that it did be wise that we have our rest very soon, and so forward again in new strength and ability. And the maid did soon agree with me, for indeed she was very weary, and we made it that we should venture unto one of the fire holes that lay no great seeming away, a little upon our right, which was the northward way of that land. And we went toward the fire hole, and, truly, it did be further off than we had thought, for it was a good hour before that we came anigh to it, and, indeed, it to prove a very great and red glowing shine that went upward into the night, out of the hollow place where it did burn among rocks. And when we were come near unto it, I made a sign to the maid that she be utter hushed, and I took the discos from mine hip, and went forward before her, and afterward to my knees and hands, and beckoned backward to mine own, that she do likewise. And we came this way to the edge of the hollow place where the fire hole did burn, and so were able in the end to look downward. And truly it was a great fire that burned in the earth in that place, yet, as I perceived very swift, there did seem nowhere any monstrous thing about the fire, the which set some peace upon mine heart, but yet not over much, for it was come fresh upon me that we did well to stay afar off from the fires of the land, in that it was about the fires that all living things did congregate. And I looked a great time, and the maid crept unto mine elbow, and looked with me, and afterward we harked, very keen, into the night, but there was nowhere any trouble of the air or of the ether of the land. Yet I spoke quiet with the maid, and showed unto her how that we did well to stay offward from the fires, but, truly, she was so utter cold and chill, that she did beg that we go down by the fire hole, even should it be that we stay no more there than should put a warmth through the utter chill of our bodies. And, in verity, I was so bitter cold that I was all weak to go beside the fire, yet, truly, I do think that the shiverings of the maid was that which did force my heart to go against the teachings of my head, so that in the end, we came down into the hollow, and very swift unto the fire. Now, truly, it doth seem a strange thing to be so diverse-minded as this, when that, as you do know, I had been so long a search for a fire pit, and mayhaps you shall perceive the better how my heart and brain did be contrary, when that I tell to you, now, how that I have belief that my spirit did even then be subtly set to warn me. And, also, as all do know, it doth be easy to forget this warning and that of experience, by which saying, I do mean that, oft as I had come to know the dangers that did be alway about the fire holes, yet when I did be far off from them, and mine own broken and a shiver with the chill of the land, the danger did seem but a small thing and afar off from my mind, and unreal, but the cold to be doubly real. Yet, when we did come even unto the fire hole, then did come again all about my heart the truth of those dangers that it seemed, but a while gone, so little. And, indeed, I do hope you perceive me in this thing, and how that I strive alway to set unto you the utter truth, so that you shall go with me all the way, and lend me your nice understanding. Now, when we were come down unto the fire pit, I went this way and that among the rocks that did be in the bottom of the hollow, so that I should perceive whether there did be any living creature there hid, that should mayhap come out, unknown, to work us harm. But, indeed, I discovered nothing of any greatness, yet I saw 3 snakes, and there were, beside, 2 scorpion creatures, as I did name them, that neither went backward from me, nor came against me, but did bide where I saw them, each in an hole of the rock. And because I had seen these things, I saw that we should not do wise to sleep nigh unto the firehole, for the creeping things did mortally like the heat, and should be like to come upon us in our slumber. And, indeed, this did but uphold my caution, that we should be well actioned, if that we chose some other part to our rest. Yet, as you shall suppose, I said not unto the maid concerning the creeping and the poisonous things, for I did mean that she have rest in happiness the while that we did stay beside the firehole, and afterward, I should tell her, and so she be the more ready to see the properness that we go elsewhere to our sleep. But, as you to understand, if that she not to see wisely and be still intent to the firehole, I should have her to obey, for surely she was mine own, and I did love her and did mean alway to have her to safety. Now, presently, the maid was something warmed, and afterward, she slipped the scrip from my shoulder, and so had food and drink very swift to my need. And we sat together, and eat and drank, and the maid very sweet and quiet, as she did begin to eat her second tablet, and, truly, I had knowing that she did remember in all her body that I had whipped her. And, indeed, she did be utter mine. And oft as we did eat and drink, I looked this way and that, so that no creeping thing should come anigh to us, and presently, when we had made an end of our food, the maid saw that I did look about, and she then very swift to catch some of mine unease, and to stare over her shoulder. And, indeed, in a little while she saw a snake go among the rocks, and she then to be very eager that we find some place that should be secure from creeping things. And we to begin then to look for such. But in the end, we stayed in the hollow, for we found a little cave that did be in an upstanding rock of the hollow, and the upstanding rock was, mayhaps, 100 good feet off from the fire, for the hollow was very great. And the cave did be a hole that was thrice my height up from the bottom rocks, and it was dry and sweet and with no creeping thing within it, neither did there be any place to hide such therein. And when we were gotten into the hole, surely it did be very sweet and cozy, for the shine of the firehole did shine therein, and surely we had felt it a very haven, but that there was ever the fear of the land upon our hearts, and upon mine the more than upon the maid, for, truly, mine own did seem to trust me utter, and to seem that she feared not any evil monster, but to have surety that I had power to succor her in all ways. And truly this trust had been very sweet unto my heart, if that I had lacked somewhat of my terror for the safe homegoing of mine own. And we slept that night as we had done before, and shared the cloak over us, for truly, the fire hole made no great warmth unto us, it was it less bitter in that part than in the darkness of the land. And by that we had come unto sleep, it was 20 good hours since last we had slumber, and truly we did be very wearied, but yet came unto our rest with our spirits set anxious to hearken on danger the while that we did sleep. And we slept 7 hours, and did know suddenly of some matter that had need to waken us, and lo! In a moment I did wake, and the maid in the same instant of time, and there was a great screaming and crying out in the night, that surely affrighted us both, yet did hurt our hearts the more, for it did be the utter cryings and terror of poor humans in the night of that land. Yet might I do not, but only wait that I learn more of the matter, for my duty was unto mine own, and I had no leave of rashness any more. Yet, as you do suppose, I was all shaken to go downward of the rock, and afterward to climb out from the hollow, that I should give some help unto they that did need help, but yet might I not leave the maid. And immediately, there was a great roaring in one part of the night, and again another roaring in another part of the night, and lo! In a moment the roarings did be answered, and the roarings were the sounds of big and husky voices, so that it did seem that we harked to men so big as houses that did run and shout in the night. And the maid did begin to shake, and I put mine arm about her, and drew her backward into the hole so that she did be into the shadow, and she did tremble like one that was broken in courage, for, truly, she had heard those sounds oft in the night in all the long and dreadful month that she had wandered. And, indeed, I was all shaken in my courage, for it did be the shouting of giants that I heard, and you do know somewhat of the utter horror and terror that did be alway in the heart that did hearken unto those monstrous voices, for you do know my tale. And there came in a moment a dreadful screaming out in the night, and the screaming did be the screaming of a young maid that doth be slain very brutal. And my heart sickened, because of mine own, but my spirit did swell with a strange and utter anger, as that it should burst my body. And the maid to my side broke into an utter sobbing. And the screaming of the maid afar off in the dark did end very sudden, but in a moment there did be other screamings in divers places, and the hoarse shoutings of the great men and the thudding of mighty feet that ran this way and that, chase. And the cryings of the humans came nearer, and the thuddings of the great feet. And, in verity, in a little minute, it did seem unto me that the sounds did be right upon the hollow, and I crept forward, and peered out. And I felt the night to be full of people running, and immediately there passed by the hollow a clustering of humans that ran ever, and screamed and gasped and wept, panting, as they ran. And the shining of the firehole made them plain seen and clear, and they did be both men and women, and were but in rags or utter naked, and all torn by the rocks and the bushes, and did seem, indeed, as that they had been wild things that did go by so swift and lost. And mine heart troubled me with the pain and longing that it did know, so that I had gone in a moment after those people, but that I should leave mine own and put her to peril. And even while that I felt so utter in this thing, there came a great thudding of monstrous feet, and there ran 4 great men out of the night, and went past the hollow very quick. And 3 did be dull-colored and seeming much haired and brutish, but the other did be in horrid white, and livid blotched, so that it did seem to my spirit that there went by a thing that did be a very man-monster filled of unwholesome life. And surely they did be gone from out of the shine of the fire, in one moment, as we do say, and again into the night to their dreadful chasing. And when the thudding of their feet had gone a long way off over the land, I heard them bellowing, and afterward a far-away screaming, that did have a death note in it, and I knew that those dreadful brute men did be taking the life from some poor wild humans, and afterward there did be the silence again. And, surely, it did come to me with a fierce impatience of sorrow, that those people did be without spirit of courage, else had they turned them upon the giants, and slain them with their hands, even if that all had died to compass that slaying, for, truly, they should all die anywise by the giant men, and they had died then with somewhat to comfort their hate. Yet, as I do know, the peoples of the lesser redoubt had long been born of parents that were starved of the earth current through 100,000 years and more, and because of this thing, they did surely lack somewhat in all ways. Yet was not he otherwise, but this not to prove aught, save the rule, as we do say. Now, sudden, as I stooped very hushed and troubled in the mouth of the little cave, I knew that mine own sobbed dryly in the back part of the cave. And I had gone to comfort her, but that in the same moment, I saw a naked maid run very swift over the edge of the hollow, and did look over her shoulder, as she ran. And she came to the bottom, and crept in under a ledge of rock that did be in that place, and she did seem utter worn, and gone of the spirit, and desperate. And I perceived in the same instant why that she did go stealthy and swift in that fashion, and to cower, as for her very life, for there came a squat, haired man, so broad as a bullock, who did come silent down into the hollow, looking this way and that, even as a wild beast doth peer, very sudden. And the squat man had instant knowing of the place where the maid did be, and ran in upon her, with no sound. And I paused not, but leaped all the great way unto the bottom of the hollow, which did be, mayhaps, 20 good feet and more, for mine anger was upon me, and I did mean that I saved that one, though I did be powerless to give succor unto those others. And I fell strong upon my feet, and had no harm of my limbs, for all that the leap did be so high. And in that moment, before that I had time to save the maid, the squat man ripped her, and she cried out once with a very dreadful scream, and was suddenly dead in the hands of the brute man. And my heart made my blood to burn with wrath in mine eyes, so that I had scarce power in that instant to see the squat man, as I ran upon him. And the roar of the discos filled all the hollow, as I made it to spin, as that it did rage with an anger, and to be glut of the man. And the man came round upon me, and thought, mayhaps, to deal with me, as it had dealt with that poor maid, but not all that wise, as you must know. And I swung the discos, and it did seem to sing and to cry eager in my hands. And I smote at the squat man, even as it did leap silent upon me, as a tiger doth leap, making no sound. But I gat not home the blow, for the man dropped sudden down upon the hands, and the blow went overwards. And the brute man caught me by the legs, to rip me, and I cut quick with the discos, and it did have but one monstrous talon left unto it. And immediately, it cast me with the other half across the hollow, and I fell with mine armor clanging mightily, and the discos did ring like a bell. And by the graciousness of all good things, I was harmed not by that monster throw, but was to my feet in one instant, and had not loosed the discos from my hand. And the beast man did be upon me with 2 quick boundings, and I stood up to the man, and it made no sound or cry as it came at me, and there did a great froth of brute anger and intent come from the mouth of it, and the teeth came down on each side of the mouth, very great and sharp. And I leaped and smote, so that my blow should come the more speedy, and the discos took away the head and the shoulder of the squat man, and the dead thing knocked me backward, with the spring that it had made, but it harmed me not greatly. Yet afterward I did know how sore and bruised I did be, in all my body and being. And I came back very swift against the man, but it did be truly dead and greatly horrid. And I went from the dead monster, and did go, all heart-shaken, unto the dead maid. And I took the torn body of the maid, very sorrowful, and cast it into the fire-hole. And I turned me then that I should look unto the cave, that I should know that all did be well with mine own, and whether she did have seen the horror, or be gone into a swoon. And lo! Mine own did run toward me, and she had in her hand my belt knife which I did give her, before that time, to be a weapon for her defense. And I perceived that she had come to be mine aid, if that I did need such. And she did be utter pale, yet very steadfast and not seeming to tremble. And I made to take her from that place, but she went beyond me, and looked at the monstrous bulk of the squat man, and was very silent. And she came back unto me, and still so silent. And she stood before me, and said no word, but my heart knew what she did be thinking, for I am not foolish, to have liked to know what did be in her heart, though mine effort had not shown itself that way unto me, before that moment. And I had no pretending of modesty, but received with gladness and a strangeness of humbleness the honor that her eyes did give to me, for, indeed, she did be so, that she might not give word to her joy of me and her glad respecting, the which is so wondrous good unto the heart of all men that do be loving of a dear and honest maid. And she said nothing, neither then nor afterward, but I did be honored all my life after, when that I did any time mind me of the way that mine own looked upward at me in those moments. And afterward she did need and allow herself to come unto mine arms, that I hold her from the trembling of heart which did come to her, after that there did be no need for courage, for surely we had both seen a very dreadful thing, and there was a great horror upon us. And I climbed upward again to the little cave, and did help Nani, and when we were come there again, we did rest a while. And presently we each of us, 2 of the tablets and drank some of the water, and indeed we were both utter thirsty. And in about an hour, after that we had harked very keen a time, we came downward again from the cave, and had our gear with us, and we came up out of the hollow, and set forward with a great caution unto the olden seabed. And we came there in 2 long hours, for we went very slow and with constant harkings, for the fear of the monstrous man was upon us. But there came no harm anigh, neither did we perceive any disturbance in the night of the land. And we went down an hour into the olden seabed, and did go now the more swift, for our fear was something eased from us, because that we had come away from that place where we had perceived so great and dread in hunting. But yet had we all care about us, for the giants surely to be everywhere in that land, but yet, as I do think, they'd a roam more often nigh to the fire-holes, for the humans did surely wander in such parts, that they have warmth of the fires. And after we had gone downward an hour into the seabed, we turned somewhat unto the southwest, and went for 12 great hours, and did never be any huge space from the shore, for it did run that way, as you do know. And I made to steer by the shinings of the land, and with advices from mine own. And in the end of the 12th hour, I did count our distance, making that we did walk somewhat of a certain speed, and by the tellings of the maid, we did be surely come beyond the place of the land where the poison gas did lie. And by this, it did be something after 17 hours since we did sleep, and surely we did be very ready to have rest, for we had gone forward strongly, and with anxiousness, and truly my hurts did become upon me, so that my whole body did ache, for the quick fight had been bitter, and I had been thrown very hard and brutal, and, indeed, it was wondrous that I had not been all smashed, only that the armor did save me. And this doth show truly how hard and strong I did be, and Nanny did speak upon this, and was oft a wonder, and at that time did beg me that I make some rest to cure my hurts, for she had not conceived that a man did grow so strong and hardy, and, in verity, the men of the lesser redoubt did be soft-made and lacking of grimness, as I did perceive, both through my reason and from retellings, for they did lack the strong life that doth breed where is the beat of the earth current, as we to have in the mighty pyramid. And this thing I have said somewise before this time. And because that we did be so wearied, I said unto Nanny that we find a place for our slumber, and she very willing, as I have shown, and to counsel me likewise. Yet did we search about in that gloom for a great hour more, and found no cave or hole to give us a safe refuge for our sleep. And when that we could not find such, I told Nanny that we should put the boulders together, somewhat, and so have them about us, that we be greatly hid, and, in truth, even as I began to tell her my plan, she did have the same words in her mouth, so that we caught our little fingers, there in the dark of that grim land in the end of the world, even as she and I had done oft in the early years, before that eternity, when that she did be Meredith the Beautiful. And we did both be silent, and after that we had wished very solemn and earnest, we said each a name, even as lad and maid shall do in this age, and so to laughter and kissed one the other. And truly, the world doth seem not to alter in the heart, as you shall think. And this was what I did find. And we set to, and gathered together the boulders which did be very plentiful in that part. And she carried those that did be thin and flat, and I to roll those that did be great and round. And I made a place that did be long and narrow, and afterward I set the flat stones round the sides, that there be no little hole by which any creeping thing should come inward to sting us in our sleep. And afterward we gat inside, and surely it did be very cozy, as we do say, but yet not so secure as I did wish, only that I could not shift to plan aught better. And, indeed, it should keep off from us any small thing, and should be like to save us from any monstrous brute treading upon us, but otherwise, it did be but a poor affair. Now we eat 2 of the tablets, each, and drank some of the water, even as we had done in the 6th and the 12th hours, and afterward we shared the cloak for our slumber, and we kissed very sedate and loving, and charged our spirits that we wake if that any horrid thing should come anigh to us in our sleep, and afterward we did be gone very swift to slumbering, and suffered no harm. And I waked 7 hours after, and surely I did ache very bitter, as I did move my body, for the bruisings did be gotten hold of me. And I slipped away from the maid, very gentle, for I had mind that she sleep a while more, as I did mean that we make a great journey that day. And after I had harked a while, and perceived that there was no evil thing in I went outward of the stones. And I walked to and fro and moved mine arms, that I be eased somewhat of the stiffness and ache, but surely it did seem that many hours must go ere I should make any speed of travel, for I did be all clumsy and slow and nigh to groan with the pain of going in aught that I did. And I minded me that I should do somewhat to ease this thing, lest that I cause us both to come to an harm by staying over long in that land. And I went back into the stones, and gat an ointment from the pouch, that I did carry. And surely the maid did yet sleep. And I went outward of the stones, again, and stripped off the armor, and all my garments, and I rubbed my body with the ointment, and surely the pain did be so that I groaned at this time and that, but yet must I rub good and strong so that I die not of the cold of the land, and beside I was greatly anxious to cure myself. And sudden, as I did rub very strong and savage, and heating so well as I might that I groaned not, the maid did speak close beside me. And, indeed, she could see me but dimly, and had waked sudden to hear my groaning, and I was not to her side. And immediately she had thought that some evil thing harmed me, and was come in an instant that she be with me. And she cared not that I did be naked, but was utter in anger that I strove to do this thing alone, and with none to aid me, and all uncovered to the chill of the land. And she ran back into the stones, and brought the cloak and put it about me, and was so angered that she stamped, and had no impudence, but rather as that she did be minded to have tears. And she sent me back into the sheltering of the stones, and gathered mine armor, and brought these things after me. But the discos I took in my hand. And she took the pot of the ointment from me, and made me to lie, and she rubbed me very strong and tender, and kept me warm with the cloak, and surely she was a wise and lovely maid, and utter mine own. And in the end, she asked me how I was, and I said that I did be different, and she hurried me that I be clothed very quick, for she did be sore afraid that I should come to a chill. And when I was gotten again into mine armor, she came to me, and showed me where I did lack wisdom, and spoke very straightly and gentle and serious, and afterward kissed me, and gave me my tablets, and to sit beside me. And we eat and drank, and I with a new lovingness unto mine own, and she somewhat as that she did mother me, but when I put mine arm about her, she did be only a maid. And we did be thus, with but little talk and a great content. And afterward, we gat our deer together, and went from that little refuge that we had made, and in a while we did go upward out of the olden seabed. And when we were come again to the top of the shore, the which we did in 2 good hours, I looked over the land, a time, with mine own and eye to me. And I perceived that the great red fire pit of the giants did be no mighty way off unto the south and west, and surely in a little moment, we saw that there went monstrous figures against the shine of the mighty fire pit, and we stooped unto the earth, for it did seem that the light did be like to show us standing there, though truly we did be afar off, as you perceive. Yet, mayhaps, you do share with us the utter horror and distress that those horrid men did cast about the heart, and so have a kindly understanding of our fear. And over all the land, in this place and that, there did be the small shining of little fire holes and pits, that did be alway red, save in that part where the poison gas did lie, the which we had now come safe past. And beyond the fire holes, was the great shine, that lay from the west unto the north of all that land, and, in verity, we did need that we steer so that we come not anigh to it, neither unto the great red fire pit of the giants, neither unto the low volcanoes, which were beyond the great red fire pit, as you do know, and someways unto the mouth of the upward gorge. And the way of our journey was between the west and the southwest of that land, and to be made with cunning and wisdom, that we come clear of all unseemly danger unto mine own. And I asked her concerning this thing and that of the land, and surely she told me so much of terror that I was half in a wonder that ever I did live in the end to come unto her. And it was because of the things that she set out to me, that I perceived how we must come nowise anigh to the low volcanoes that were upon this side of the mouth of the upward gorge, for it had been known alway in the lesser redoubt that there went very horrid men in that part that did be called wolfmen, but whether there did be any such thing in that age, she had no knowing, for she told me the things that did be set down in the records and the histories, and truly no man of the lesser redoubt had found heart in 1,000 great years to make a journeying through the land, for the desire of glad and dreadful adventuring, such as our young men did be oft set to, though it was not all such that went. And because there did be no adventuring for so monstrous a space of years, there was no certain new knowledge of the land of that age. And this thing is plain to you, and needing not of many words, which do so irk me. And Nani set out to me how that the shine was conceived to be a land where evil did live forever, and whence came all those forces of evil that did work upon the lesser refuge. And afterward she did quiet, so that presently I perceived that she did weep to herself, because that her memory was all new stirred by my questionings. And I took her very gentle into mine arms, as we did be there kneeled upon the earth. And after that time, I asked her no question, save as it did be needful to our health and life, yet oft did she tell me this thing and that of her knowledge, to be for mine help and guiding. Now we went forward, going a space toward the northwest, so that we come the more clear of the place where did be the great red fire pit of the giants. And we journeyed with a care alway that we show not ourselves over plain unto the light that shone over the land from the great pit, and oft we did creep a while over this stark place and that, and went nimbly amid the bushes that grew oft in great parts. And we made 6 hours this way, and did then have pause, that we eat and drink, and truly it was 9 hours since first I did wake, yet had we made no pausing, because that we were so set to our journeying to come clear of the place where did be the giants. And after that we had eat and drunk, we went onward again, and made now unto the southwest, for we did heed that we go no more unto the northwest, because that should bring us over near to the shine. And in the 14th hour of that day's travel, we came to a part where the land dipped downward into a broad valley, and surely it did be very dark down there, and did be seeming shallow, yet truly of a great deepness. But we went that way, because that it did be a weary long journey to go around the place where the valley did be. And the valley had a different darkness from the gloom that went alway in the olden seabed, for the gloom of the seabed did be ever of a greyness, but the gloom of this valley had a greater dark within it, yet did the air seem more clear. And we went downward 3 hours into the valley, and stopped then that we eat and drink, and truly I had not paused then, but that mine own did insist, for our methods did be like, else, to go all adrift, and we to be lacking of proper strength. And this was wisdom of the maid, but I to be a little irk-like and restless, and this mayhap because that my blood did itch me, because that it did be so full of the poison of my bruises. And it was gone now of 17 hours since last we did sleep, but yet did we be ready to go forward, that we come so quick as maybe out of the dark of that valley, for there did seem nowheres any fire-hole to make a light, only that in this place and that, there did be a little blue shining, as that there burned a strange gas in this part or that. Now, in 2 hours after the time that we did eat, we stopped, both of us, very sudden, for there did be some vague and curious sound in the night. And we went very swift to the earth, that we be hid, and harked. But did hear nothing. And in a while, we to go onward again, yet there did be an unease upon our spirits, for our spirits did perceive something afar off in the night, but yet had we no surety in this matter. And we went forward through a great hour more, and did pass in that time 2 places where the blue shining did be, and truly it seemed as that a low gas hung to the earth in this part and that, and made a slow burning, having neither noise nor spurtings, but slow, as that it did smoulder and be all to shine and luminous. And oft there did be a strong smelling of a bitter gas, very horrid in the throat. And in the end of another hour, while that we were a space off from one of those gas shinings, there went past us at a distance, as it did seem people, running in the night, as that they did be lost spirits, yet with a rustling very soft, so that they did be like to be barefoot. And I thought mayhap that these did be some of the peoples of the lesser pyramid, yet did they be only as that shadows went among the blue shinings. And I pondered a moment, whether that I send my voice over the valley, to question what they did be, but yet had caution, and hark through the utter silence of the night, for I had no surety of aught. And, surely, in that moment that we harked very keen, there did be a sound afar off in the night of the land, and it was as that we had heard the sound before, and, in verity, our spirits had perceived the sound, those 2 hours back, and now our bodies did what, and perceived that we had known it subtly before that moment. And the sound was as that something went spinning in the night. And a very great terror came upon the maid, for she did know the sound, and the sound was that which did show that one of the great evil forces of the land did approach, and the sound had been known alway in the lesser refuge to show this thing. And, indeed, mine own spirit had been half to know that a power of evil did come through the night, but yet was the assurance very terrible, for how should I protect mine own? And the spinning came toward us, and was presently in the valley, and it came swiftly across the dark of the valley. And my heart was all broken within me, because that there had been happiness with us, but a little time gone, and now there did be our death anigh. And mine own gave me the knife that I had given to her, meaning that I slay her, in the last moment, for she did heed even in that moment that she be not gashed horridly by the terror of the discos. And I took the knife. And I kissed not mine own, but stood there, very shaken and desperate, and gripped her fast unto me, scarce heeding the hardness of my gripe, and alway I looked unto the way of the coming of the sound. And presently did unbear my wrist where the capsule did be. And the sound of the thing spinning came anigh, across the valley, and my heart did dull and my spirit go black with my desperateness, because that this thing must be, and because that I could nowhere see hope that I should save mine own. And, of a sudden, the maid put up her arms, and pulled me downward, and kissed me once on the lips, but I would not whether I kissed her, for I did burn with despair and was all adrift in my being. Yet was there a sharp comfort that mine own dying did be so nigh. And the maid stood gently against me, so that she did be convenient unto my hand. And afterward I remembered this thing, and do you pray that you be never to have such a matter on your hearts. But, indeed, there was a wonder in this thing, beside the horror, so that my memory doth be alway knowing of this wonder, and mayhap you do see with me, and love mine own also in your hearts. And in the moment that the maid stood thus, as I have told, I perceived sudden that there did be a little glowing in the night, and the glowing was pale and horrid. And there was no more any sound of the spinning, only there did be, as it were, the trunk of a great tree, that did show in the glowing, and the trunk of the tree came toward us across the darkness. And I turned the maid from the tree, and she did flutter a little in my hands, as I did know, scarce knowing, for she perceived that she did be going to die in that moment. And I had my body thus between the evil thing and the maid. And lo! The tree came no more anigh to us, but went backward, and the pale glowing did fade, and the tree no more to be seen. And I cried unto the maid, very husky, that we did live, for that the evil power was gone off from us, but she answered not, and did be heavy against me. And I held her, and looked alway about us, lest the tree come in upon the other side. And, as I looked this way and that, I saw not, and afterward, in a moment, I searched the night above, lest that the thing come from above. And, behold, I saw that there abode over us a clear light, as it were a clear burning circle, above us in the night. And my heart did leap with an holy joy and an utter great thankfulness, and I was no more in fear of the tree, for, in verity, there fought for our souls one of those sweet powers of goodness, that did strive ever to stand between the forces of evil and the spirit of man, and this matter have I shown to you, before this time. And concerning this holy defense, I have thought that it should not, mayhap, to have had so strong a power to save us, if that we had shown an over-weakness and fear, but because that we did rather stand so well as we might to make battle of escape from so dire a destruction. And, surely, this doth seem but a sane thinking unto me, but yet without proof, and to be said to you, only as the shapings of my thoughts. And this the chief end of that happening, that the holy circle did truly deliver us, and burned through 12 great hours above us, and by this, do I know that the evil power hovered anigh, to destroy us, all that while, for, indeed, it doth not be proper of reason to suppose that such an utter wondrous thing did be needlessly over us, save to be a shield of great and lovely force against a waiting evil thing. And surely you do see this wise with me? And, truly, so soon as my spirit and reason perceived that we did be no more to suffer from the evil thing, I remembered that I did know that mine own had swooned. And, in verity, you shall mind how that she did face her death so utter sweet and brave, and had given no cry, but made quietly to help me in that dreadful moment, and did stand brave and gentle to the stroke. And so fell into a swoon, as you have seen, because that she did suffer 100 deaths as she did stand so brave, waiting to be slain, for the blow did be so long delayed, yet to come in any moment. And I gat her to come to unto her life again, and I set the lovely tale very swift to ease her, and surely with love and warmth, and kissed her with a great joy. And I showed how I did honor her for her good courage. And she to weep a little, with the ease come so sudden upon her, and afterward to kiss me upon the lips 100 times, and to need that she be very safe in mine arms, because that I had meant that I do so dread an office to her. And surely I do wonder whether you perceive all that did be then in her heart. And the holy light that did be over us, she did watch with the sweetness of awe, and rest did come more great upon her in the heart, as she did learn how sure was the seeming of that lovely power to deliver us. And, presently, we made forward again in the valley, and did go steadfast, and newly loving each to the other, and so through 12 great and body-weary hours, but our hearts could never be done singing within us, nor our hands to cease from the hands of the other, because that we did so crave each unto the beloved. And in the 9th hour, a monstrous way off in the dark of the valley, there did seem as that there went a far and dreadful screaming in the night. And it did be as that our spirits perceived the sound of something spinning in the night, yet faint and a great way off, but yet had we no surety that we did truly hear the sound of the spinning, only we did be so shaken in the heart, for truly there was some horror done unto humans, downward in the mighty darkness of the valley. And to think upon the sound of the spinning, was to be in a shaking trouble of the spirit, and to bless the quiet and holy light that went above us in all that time, and to ache only that it should stay to be to our protecting. And surely it did be plain that there were the signs of great forces in that land. And 3 hours after that time, when we did hear the far-off screaming, we were come up over the edge of the valley, and did be once more unto such light as did be general in the land, and truly it did seem a wondrous lightness, after so utter a dark. And we did be all exhaust, and mine own drew her feet so weary that it was as that she must go no more, until we did rest, for indeed it was 33 hours since last that we had slept, and a bitter trouble and work there had been in that space, as you do know. Now we had eat some of the tablets a few hours back, as we did walk, and had drunk some of the water, but had made no rest, for we did crave only that we come free of that valley. And now it was needful that we rest, if but a little time. And I minded that we find some place where I should have a hot pool, that I be able to bathe Nani's feet. And, surely, we came in a while to a hollow place, and there did be 2 dull burning fire holes in this place, and a hot bubbling spring, the which did seem to be a rare thing in that land, so that we were the more fortunate to perceive it. And I made mine own to sit, with her feet in the hot spring, for it was not over hot, and did seem pretty natural to my taste, as I did prove in the first. And also I did search about the hollow, lest there be any harmful creature nearby, and this you will have truly supposed, because you do know the methods of my journeying. But yet did I not have so much care as did be proper, for I was so dull in the mind, by reason of my weariness, but, indeed, there came not to work us any harm, and so we came to no suffering, through mine aches and dullness. And I sat beside the maid, and made her to eat a tablet, and saw that the cloak did be nice about her, and her head to rest against my knee, and I laid the palm of my hand to be as a pillow, because of the armor, to ease the hardness. And I eat with the maid, and we both drank after, and so there came back somewhat of our strength. Then I took the maid's little feet, and rubbed a portion of the ointment from the pot all about them, very gentle and constant, and so did they be new rested and eased, and should presently fit again to the journey, for I was strong set that we go quickly hence out of that land, and stay no more there to sleep, lest we come unto destruction. And when we had rested an hour, I put the shoes again upon the maid, and made them secure, and so gat my gear about me, and made to the journey. And lo! As we did leave the hollow, I looked upward unto the holy light, and behold it was gone from us, and by this thing I supposed that we had come free of instant danger, but yet did there be to me a seeming of nakedness and unprotection, as you must perceive. And because that the light was vanished, I was the more set that we come speedy out of the land. And we went forward at a strong speed, and had the great red fire pit of the giants to our rear unto the left, and a mighty way off in the night, but yet I did wish it the further. And before us was a small ridging up of the dark land, as I did judge, because that our view of the lights and the shinings was bounded, and to our left at a great way the low volcanoes, and somewhat to our right, across all that part of the land went the cold and horrid glare of the shine. Now, in a little while, I felt that the ground did be sloped upward before us a little, and by this thing I saw that I had known aright, for that there did be a ridge that hid the land somewise over unto the part where I looked to find the mouth of the upward gorge. And we went up this slope at a strong pace, because that I was so eager that I find where we did be in nearness unto the mouth of the upward gorge. And surely, I was something forgetful, in mine eagerness, and came somewhat ahead of mine own, who did make to hide from me that she did begin to lag, because that her new strength was near gone from her. And sudden there did be a very dreadful cry, to my back, and I came round in one instant, so quick as a light doth flash, for it was the voice of mine own, and all my being did suddenly burn with fear that kindled through me in a moment of thought. And lo! Mine own did struggle terribly with a yellow thing which I perceived to be a man with 4 arms, and the man had 2 arms about the maid, and with 2 did make to choke her unto death, for she cried out no more. And I came unto the man with a quick leaping, and stopped not to pluck the discos from my hip, and surely I did be very strong, and mine anger and rage to make me monstrous, for I caught the 2 upper arms of the man, and brought them backward in an instant, so fierce and savage, and so wrenched upon them, that I brake them in the shoulders of the man. And the man roared and shrieked, even as a wild and dreadful beast should cry out, and came round upon me with the 2 lower arms. And surely it was a mighty and brutish thing, and so broad and bulked as an ox, and the lower arms were huge and greatly haired, and the fingers of the hands did have the nails grown into horrid talons, as that they should grip very bitter. And it caught me by the thighs, to rip me upward, as I did fear, but yet this did not be the intent of the man, for in a moment it caught me round the body, and on the instant I gat the man by the great throat, and the throat did be haired, and so great as the neck of a bull. And I strove with mine armored hands that I choked the man, and surely I made it to suffer great trouble, yet I could not harm it in the life. And so I did be in horrid minute, and fought with the beast, with no more than the strength of my body, and it was as that an human went with his hands to slay a monster so strong as an horse. And the breath of the man-beast came at me, and did sicken me, and I held the face off from me, for I had died with horror, if that it had come more anigh, and surely the mouth of the man was small and shaped so that I knew that it did never eat of aught that it did slay, but to drink as a vampire, and in truth, I did mean that I chopped the man to pieces, if that I have chanced to the discos. And I did sway this way and that, as we did struggle, and surely it was as that the man had never made to use the lower arms, save to hold unto prey, the while that it did use the upper arms to strangle, as I do think. For all that weary minute of the fight, the man made not to loose from me, that it should tear my hands from their grip to the throat, but made vain waggings with the arms that I brake, as that it would use these to the attack, but surely they had no more power to do hurt. And sudden, it put forth an utter power about my body, so that mine armor did be like to crack, and truly I had died in a moment, but for the strongness of the armor. And the man hugged me thus for an horrid time, the while that I did hold off from me the brutish face, and gripped very savage into the haired throat. And lo! The creature did work slow in the brain, and in the end loosed from me, abrupt, and went back with a leap, so that my hands did be ripped from the throat of the beast. And in one instant it did be back unto me, and gave me no moment to free the discos. But I made anew to fight, and shaped as I had learned in the exercises of mine upbringing, for truly I had been alway deep in practice of such matters. And I slipped from the great hands of the man, as it did try to take me by the head, and I hit the man with mine armored fist, and put a great power and skill to the blow. And I went instant to the side with a swift stepping, and evaded the man, and I smote the man again, and took him very savage in the neck, but all the while grown very cold and brutal and cruel, for I was set to the slaying. And the man-beast came round on me, and lo! I slipped the gripe of the great hands, and my body and my legs and mine arms did work together unto that last blow, so that I did hit so hard as a great hammer. And I gat the beast in the throat, and the beast went backward to the earth, even as it did think to hold me. And lo! In a moment, I was free, and I plucked forth the discos from my hip. And the yellow beastman grunted upon the ground, and it rose up again to come at me, and it stood and did grunt, and did seem as that it was gone mazed, for it did make other sounds, and in horrid screeching, so that truly, by the way of it, I conceived that it cried out unknown and half-shapen words at me. And in a moment, it came again at me, but I cut the head from the beastman, that was in verity an horrid monster, and the man died, and was quiet upon the earth. And truly, in that moment, the distress of mine efforts and mine utter tiredness and the ache of the bruises took me, so that I do surely think I rocked as I stood, but yet was my head strong to think and my heart set in anxiousness, for I wot not how great an hurt had been done upon mine own. And I ran to her, and came to where she did be upon the ground, and surely she was all huddled, and had her hands very piteous to her throat, that did be so pretty. And it did shake me in that moment that she was truly slain, for she was gone so utter still and as that she did be broken unto death. And I took her hands from her throat, and surely it did be a little torn, yet not to be much, or so that it should loose her of her dear life. And I strove that I steady the trembling of my hands, and I gat free of mine armored gloves, and made that I feel whether her throat did be deadly hurt, and, in verity, it seemed not so, only that my hands did so shake, because that I was so frightened for mine own, and because that I was but new come from the battle, and because of this, I had not power of touch to assure me. I made then that I quiet in my breath, which did yet come very full and labored, and I put mine ear above the heart of the maid, and lo! Her heart did beat, and the horridness of my fear went from me in a moment. And I had the scrip from my back very speedy, and some of the water to fizz, and I dashed the water upon her face and upon her throat, and surely there did be a little quivering and an answering of her body. And I strove with her for a while more, and she came unto her life again, and in the first, she was all alack, as you may think, and immediately she began that she remembered, and she then to shake. And I told her how that the four-armed man was surely dead and could harm her no more, and she then to weep, because that she had been put to such shock and horror, and held by so brutish a thing. But I took her into mine arms, and so she did come presently to an ease, and I perceived in all my being that she was as a little ship that doth lie in harbour, for she did cling and nestle unto me, and did be safe with me in all her heart and body and belief. And surely she was mine own, and I to have glory in that knowing. And presently, I put her from mine arms, to lie, yet so that she might not perceive the body of the yellow beast man. And I made clean the discos from her sight, and afterward I put on the scrip, and I took the maid to mine arms again, and had the discos in my hand beside her.